for speech, and then we go back to the agenda. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm sure you want to do it.
Okay, I'm secretary. Whenever you're ready.
Are we ready for the pledge yet, Chris? You're still working on the mechanics.
I'm ready anytime you're ready.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, can you introduce the speaker?
Chris, you want to introduce the speaker?
Whoever knows the speaker.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I really don't need any fancy introduction. My name is Karen, not that Karen. And I'm with Florida Voices for Health. And we obviously believe that the expansion of Medicaid is very important. Now, Chris is going to put my screen onto your screen. We did it once.
Yeah.
Screen.
Let's choose. And there it is.
There it is.
Okay. Yay! Now we can just move that out of the way. That should be fine.
And move it out of the way.
Okay, well then works how the way it is. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting Florida Voices for Health here this evening. We really are the number one lead agency in the state of Florida that has been pushing for Medicaid expansion. Currently, Florida is only one of 10 states in the entire country that has not expanded Medicaid, which, as you will see from the statistics I'm going to go over this evening, it's just cruel. I mean, there's really no other way to explain it. The money that we could be drawing down from the federal government, the number of people that we would be helping is just makes no sense that any legislator, regardless of what side of the aisle, there is no reason, no sane reason why anybody would not expand Medicaid. North Carolina was the latest, and they are a red state, but they saw the light. Because right now, what is called the public health emergency, or PHE, those PHE dollars are going, they've already officially ended the 31st of March. So over 900,000 people in Florida who were able to access those public health emergency dollars through Medicaid are no longer going to qualify. So not only does Florida end the public health emergency dollars, not expand Medicaid, but they've also decided to do redeterminations for the entire state of Florida, or 1.75 million people. So these 1.75 million are being alerted by, as the Agency for Healthcare Administration says, through a postcard. And the reason that they're going to pay attention to that particular postcard is because it's going to have a yellow stripe for coward. That's the way I look at it. And somehow they're not going to discard that into the wastebasket. But what's going to happen with these families is they're going to have a doctor's appointment that they probably scheduled months ago. And they're going to show up at that appointment. And for rural areas, you can imagine how far some people have to go to get to one of these healthcare locations. And they're going to be told, you don't have health insurance. And it's not incumbent upon the doctors to notify these individuals. It is incumbent upon the state of Florida, or AHCA, Agency for Healthcare Administration. And their answer to notification is a postcard with a yellow stripe. Okay, Chris, we moved my screen again.
connect with their. That where you want to be? Let me just get rid of that. I got it. That screen.
Yeah, if we can just get rid of participants.
iPad.
The X at the top of the box on the right side, is that what you want? X. Oh.
Yeah, just X that.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So why should Florida close the coverage gap? Well, there's about 500,000 reasons why. What is happening in Florida is these are individuals that make too much to qualify for Medicaid, but don't make enough to qualify for the Affordable Care Act. So they are called people that are in the gap, the Medicaid gap. And without expanding Medicaid, there's no way that they're going to qualify for insurance because, again, they make too much for Medicaid and not enough for the Affordable Care Act. So if we did close that eligibility gap, we would save the state over $200 million annually. And that would ensure that Florida would be getting federal tax dollars local and give more hardworking Floridians the chance of healthcare coverage. That's through the Affordable Care Act. Now, the problem in Florida, again, we have over 500,000 that are uninsured, and that just means the ones that don't qualify for Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act. To qualify for Medicaid in the state of Florida, a family of three can only earn $6,924 a year. That is how low. So anybody, $6,924 a year is all that a family of three, because single people do not qualify for Medicaid in the state of Florida. The only people that qualify for Medicaid in the state of Florida are pregnant women, infants, children, individuals with disabilities, and seniors. That's it. So when people say, everybody can qualify for Medicaid, it's not true. And we'll go through the debunking the myths in a second. Because of no. Oh, because they cannot qualify for either. We're looking at roughly over close to 3,000 deaths a year and counting. And we know there are more. The problem that we're finding, just like they hid the statistics for COVID. I mean, that was just recently published, how they did not let everybody know what was really happening. And whether or not that young lady in the Panhandle that ran against Matt Gaetz this past election, whether or not she's telling the truth, I don't know, because they have smeared her to the point that I think, she's a parent of a child with autism. And if you have any friends who have kids with autism, you know how stressful their daily lives are. There's so much involved, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing a parent. To most other people, that person is the one that is going to look like they have lost their mind. They're going to look like they are the ones that are wrong. And that is what Florida has done to her. I mean, I've met her. I think she's a very intelligent individual, or she wouldn't have been able to put that database together. She was initially being applauded by the state of Florida. The governor, even he who cannot be named, which is what I like to call the T word, they were both agreeing that Florida was doing a good job. And then the next thing you know, they're raiding her house, and they have just destroyed her life in so many ways. So anyway, we look at $2.6 billion is the amount in uncompensated health care costs that Florida has to take on annually. 70% of families, that's the number of Florida families that are in that coverage gap, or at least that have at least one full-time worker. So even if you are working full-time and you make too much for Medicaid and not enough for the Affordable Care Act, this is what's going to happen to you. You're not going to have any health care coverage. And there are so few counties that even have free clinics. Free basically in Florida means on a sliding scale. And the rest of the individuals who don't have access to that kind of care, where do they wind up? In emergency rooms. So basically, everybody in Florida is paying for those that are not insured. Because when you go to an emergency room, they do treat you, they have to. They may not give you, carte blanche treatment, but they will at least stabilize you and probably get you out of there as soon as possible. But the fact is, they're not going to be paid for that. So who's going to pay for it? We are. We pay for it in higher premiums. We pay for it in, you see everything in the state of Florida, how much more it costs. And it's just, healthcare makes such a difference in a healthy state because it helps their bottom line. And in Florida, it is only hurting our bottom line. So what's the solution? Well, the solution obviously is to expand Medicaid. And if we did, we would have over 14,300 billion. That would be the amount the state would unlock in federal funds over 5 years. Because you look at the expansion of Medicaid. The expansion of Medicaid is a 90-10 match. State only picks up 10%. The federal government picks up 90%. I mean, we know at first they said, we don't want Obama money. I mean, that was their rallying cry. So what happened? Why was the Trump money no good? Oh, I said, he who cannot be named's money any good. They didn't take it even then because they just don't care. I mean, there's no other way to portray the Florida legislature. They have a super majority now. They have been in power for the past 20 years. And all our state does is keep dipping lower and lower and lower. And I mean, not to like number one. I mean, like 49th in the nation for home and community-based care, which is for individuals that are the most vulnerable in the state of Florida. Right now, they only serve roughly 35,000 people, which is less than 0.5% of our entire population. And yet that is at a ranking of 49th in the entire nation. Then you look at long-term supports and services for seniors. We have a waiting list of over 56,000. And you know how they're eliminating that waiting list? They're eliminating it by making the qualifiers different. So when you got on the waiting list, you qualified to be on that waiting list based on certain criteria. To get you off of the waiting list, they're changing the criteria. They're not giving you services. So why have so many seniors, why did so many wind up in nursing home and other environments during COVID? Because they had nowhere else to go. And we know what happened during COVID. We'll never know the full amount or number of people that died while in congregated settings, because even the Florida, I think it was the Nursing Home Association, called COVID a Cat 5 hurricane. I mean, that was the damage that it was doing to individuals that were living in congregated settings, which is not only nursing homes, but assisted living facilities, ALFs. I mean, all of these different ways that people can be living. And you can imagine what is the reason that most of us wind up in nursing homes? Because we can no longer either take care of ourselves or have some family member or even someone in the community to help us. And when you don't have any funding in the community, there's nowhere else to go. Over 1/3 of all Medicaid goes to nursing homes. So that lobby is very, very strong because it is a multi-billion-dollar a year endeavor. They're making money, but what do we get? Well, exactly. So we also look at the annual real savings, net savings that Florida would save by closing the coverage gap. And that's again, 198,900,000. And as I mentioned, it's a 90-10 match. The federal government spends 90%, we only spend 10%. It would also raise the maximum amount a family of 3 could earn to $29,988. Now that makes sense. Can you imagine how little $6,924 is a year? I mean, divide that by 12. I know there are mathematicians in here. What would that average monthly be? Listen, yeah, who, I mean, even at minimum wage, you would still earn more than that. And you're being punished. You're being punished for working in the state of Florida. And then you look at the estimated savings that Florida would see over a 5-year period. That would be $358 million. And the number of essential frontline workers who would be newly eligible under expansion, 113,000. Frontline workers who can't afford health care in the state of Florida. How sorry is that? I mean, these are our police, our firefighters, our nurses, our doctors. There are people who cannot afford health care, and yet they're the ones who are taking care of us. And during COVID, I mean, the one thing that COVID did is it has expanded the disability population exponentially. I mean, it's like tripled the size of what the disability population used to be. So when we had a country just last year that they said 1 in 4 voters had a disability, that number is going to go up. In Florida, we're already 1 in 3 voters has a disability. And when you have a disability and you don't have help, you don't have community help, you don't have enough health care, what's going to happen? Well, you're certainly not going to wind up in the top of the line nursing home. You're going to wind up, I don't know if any of you drive up Nebraska Avenue, but there are places on Nebraska Avenue. I mean, I took a picture of one once and I sent it to my son and I said, please don't put me there. You know, I mean, if there's anywhere else, I mean, I'll live above your garage before I'll, you know, I hope you don't put me there. I know we wouldn't, but it's just every once in a while we have to rattle their cages, you know. I told him I was in line at a food bank. And he's like, Ma, and he never gets back to me. I mean, you know how kids are. I mean, you text them, unless you're like heading to the emergency room there, or somebody else calls for you, they don't pick up. So, but I texted him, I said, Brian, I'm in line at a food bank. And right away he says, Ma, I'll help you. And I said, it's not for me. Because we found out when we were doing voter registration that there were food banks in the area, and myself and 3 or 4 other women, we would get in line because it doesn't matter. You can be driving a Mercedes, they'll still put food in the back of your car. But I have neighbors up the street and I don't know how many kids are in that house. I know there's half the time, no electricity. I just left it with them. I mean, it's so easy for us to help other people. I really had to laugh that was the one thing that got my son's attention. So hopefully in future I won't have to get to that. I was so surprised myself that he called me on the phone, which is even more than just texting. But we need to debunk the myths about Medicaid. People think that anybody can qualify for Medicaid. Well, when you saw how low that dollar figure is, number one. Number two, single men, forget it. In other states in this country, it's only based on income. In Florida, no. So you look at who comprises Medicaid in the state of Florida. Again, pregnant women, children and adults with disabilities and seniors. That's it. There is no free ride for Medicaid. And many of you knew my son. My Mike was trach and vent dependent. And I had to prove every single year that he was disabled. It's not easy to get Medicaid in the state of Florida. It is absolutely not. And people say, oh, they hide their money. Where? If you have a social security, unless it's under a rock in your backyard. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in a Swiss bank or some bank in the, on the islands. I mean, no, you do not hide money, because anything you receive, whether it is through social security, if you get a tax return, if you have a social security number, they know exactly who you are, where you are, how much money you make. So you can't cheat these, as they try to say, these welfare moms or these welfare cheaters. It really doesn't exist. The only true cheaters in this country are corporations. We know that. It certainly isn't Medicaid. And I'm sure all of you, I know I've seen doctors that have said, oh, they're driving a Mercedes. It's like, Somebody may have given them that Mercedes, or they may have paid off that car and then they lost everything. You cannot judge a person by the cell phone that they have, or the car that they drive, or the home that they live in, because you really don't know what their situation is. And we've become so judgmental, especially when it comes to what people like to think is a handout. And it's not. These entitlements, Medicaid was put in place for a reason. And that reason is a safety net. Especially in Florida, when we see how many more people join the Medicaid rolls after just the Hurricane Ian, the numbers go up, but that's what Medicaid is there for. So when you compare those people, that most of them aren't still back on their feet, you look at people who qualified because of the public health emergency, COVID, and now we're deciding we're going to say, none of you qualify anymore. We're going to take you all off and we're going to start all over again. And you, each and every one of you, have to have a redetermination. Only in Florida.
Their staff that's already 500.
Exactly. Well,
that's just crazy.
What did they do with unemployment? Did they set the unemployment system up to work? No. How many people tried? Like, some people would get on for hours. They would, just to see if anybody was ever going to pick up their phone, or if it was ever going to work on their computers. And it didn't. And then they even admitted that there was a flaw in the system. Did they fix it? No. Do they care about fixing it? No. But where is the burden going to be now that all of these individuals are not going to be receiving the health care they need? They're going to wind up in emergency rooms, and those costs are going to go up, and they're in small towns. Those small hospitals, they're probably going to go out of business, because how are they going to sustain themselves? And the workers, if they can't pay their workers because, they're not getting enough money from the state or even from the feds, there's nothing that they can do but close their doors. And it's going to make healthcare even more difficult to obtain in the state of Florida. And then they also like to say that Medicaid is an inefficient and broken system. That is not even close to the truth. Medicaid is one of the best run systems in this country. They created it for that very reason. Medicaid is a lifeline. And for individuals with disabilities, a Medicaid waiver, which goes a little beyond what the state will pay in Medicaid services, is a life. It enables individuals to live in their homes and communities. But when you're ranked 49th in the nation and 46th in the long-term care for seniors, we've got nothing to brag about here. And that these legislators in Tallahassee, because they know how hard it is for us to get up there. And when we do get up there, I can give you this if you need it. When they do get up there, they get 30 seconds in most of these committee meetings to speak. So some have driven or flown, and I don't know if you've ever tried to fly from Miami to Tallahassee. Sometimes you go through Chicago to get, and I'm not exaggerating. There are flights that go to Charlotte, Atlanta, Chicago, and then down to Tallahassee. They don't want us there. And a lot of their bills, they will post the morning that the bill is going to be heard in committee. It is so egregious what they do in Tallahassee. And then it says Florida's Medicaid program is consuming its state budget. Wow. That is so far from the truth when you look at what federal dollars would come here. They are turning federal dollars away every single year to purposely harm the people of the state of Florida. And yet they keep getting elected. I mean, it has to be mind-boggling, it is to us for sure, that anybody would support what we are seeing happening in the state of Florida. And yet they do. I mean, you heard what Charlie Crist was campaigning on. He was going to expand Medicaid. He was going to make sure that abortion was legal and obtainable. And the people of Florida, apparently, they just didn't want to hear that. And yet, when you consider how many more Democrats there are in some of the larger counties, which again, with that, that weighted, we could have won an election. We should be able to win every single election. but maybe we're just not hitting that message home hard enough. I know when it comes to healthcare and Medicaid, well, that's definitely part of it. But more Florida's, reason to expand Medicaid. It will save the state a lot of money. It will save lives. It will enable more people to have employment because yeah. Yep. Well, and even with when you look at caregivers for children and adults, seniors, there are no caregivers in this state because when they're making an average less than $9 an hour and they're doing trach care or ventilator care, nurses in hospital are getting way more than that. And yet we try to, do as much as we can at home. I remember in a meeting once, there was a gentleman in a wheelchair. I was serving on the board of what's called FAST, our state's Tech Act project. And this guy actually had the nerve to say, maybe we need to learn how to do more with less. I swear if he hadn't been a wheelchair, if he hadn't been in a wheelchair, I would have put him in one. I mean, it's so unbelievable that they have gotten even people with disabilities to believe that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. She did. I won't make that mistake again. And just wanted to go over a few things that are happening. This is what would happen in Florida if the Republicans are successful in repealing the Affordable Care Act and gutting Medicaid. Florida families will have higher health care costs. 3.1 million Floridians will see higher premiums. 3.1 million people in Florida who get coverage through the Affordable Care Act will see their premiums go up an average of $6,800 a year. This is like the latest thing from the White House. I just printed this out today. I got it in my email yesterday. For a married couple, age 62, earning $75,000 per year and living in Tallahassee, whoever would want to live there, repealing just the Affordable Care Act would increase their premiums by $18,180 a year. They keep talking about how they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. They want to gut Medicaid. What do they have in place? What options do they have for us? They have absolutely no options for us at all. And that's because why they don't run on these issues. They run on banning books, like making clubs that have drag shows, they're gonna fine them. They have nothing of substance to run on.
See that? No, I don't want to. Ridiculous to me.
It absolutely is. It absolutely, because there's no, they have no justification for what they do believe in, because what they do believe in does not help us. So the only way they can get their base to follow them is smoke and mirrors. Get them to hate somebody more than they hate themselves.
Right there is how do you combat that?
Yeah.
Because telling them the truth isn't working.
No, the truth isn't.
Isn't working. So we need to start thinking ahead of it. And ahead of the lies, ahead of the scam, because that's working. That's the problem. So we need to start rethinking how our strategy is going to be.
And I think it's one thing that we have seen our new chair do. Nikki Fried got arrested and she wore a t-shirt that said, just vote. And I had somebody say to me, oh, she shouldn't have worn that. I'm like, that's your problem? That's your problem? When Democrats see that as your problem, that she had just fucking vote on her shirt, that's a problem with Democrats.
They would have arrested her no matter what she had.
Well, but I'm just saying it was a Democrat who said this to me. Oh, she shouldn't have worn that shirt. Oh, poor little demure women. I mean, seriously, she at least is fighting for us. She's filed how many now suits against Death Santis for for just doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And she's trying to hold him accountable. But I think as Democrats, these are things that really should matter to all of us. And we need to be telling as many people about it. You know, your neighbors, or when you're in line at a grocery store. I mean, when you have tattoos like this, it's really easy to get people to start a conversation with you because they want to know, what does that mean? You're a healthcare voter. My tattoo says healthcare voter. And by a healthcare voter, I mean, I will not support any candidate who doesn't look at healthcare as a right and not a privilege. And we all have to feel that way because inevitably we're all going to be in that situation where we need healthcare. I mean, we all do every day, but as we age, we need it even more. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to end up in one of those places on Nebraska Avenue. But I think if we don't support this and don't really turn out in the numbers that we need, this is what we're going to have. So if you have any questions, I have one other thing that Florida has done most recently. The state of Florida is engaging in a class action lawsuit against 2 women, and I'm sure that there will be additional numbers added to that class, who aged out of typical Medicaid. Once they hit 21, they won't pay for their incontinence supplies. Again, how much money will they spend in litigation rather than providing initially just 2 women? Now, like I said, they'll expand that class, but it still isn't that high of a number. They would rather go to litigation, spend probably millions of dollars than to provide these supplies that women and men need, because that's the only way you can stay in your homes and communities. If you get to a point where, you know, you can't just be out in public, or you can't sleep without destroying a bed, they're not going to let you live at home. They're going to tell you you have to go into a more, you know, a congregated setting. And if COVID taught us anything at all, congregated settings are death traps for all of us. So I hate to end on such a positive note, but I will have him ask a question.
Yes, I'm going to ask a question, but people in the Zoom audience, feel free to make sure you ask a question and we'll get it to Karen. My question to Karen is, you have a lot of good facts and you were rattling them off. If we could get them almost as bullet points on a Medicaid expansion fact card, boy, I could use that in canvassing. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm done. That was my question.
Thank you. Another message that I was just on a call yesterday with ION. For every person in the state of Florida that has what is called an ADA qualified disability, that means anybody who has a disability, they can not only vote by mail, but they can vote by mail on their computer. They still have to print it and send it back. But if you can imagine, if we had all of the 1 in 3 voters who qualify as having a disability in the state of Florida voting that way, our supervisors of elections, their heads would just blow off, because what they have to do once they get that ballot back, they still have to take it and put it on a real ballot and feed it into the machine. You get tens of thousands of that, and it would change the way that we vote in the state of Florida, because that's what they did in other states. They got people with disabilities to lead the way so that everybody in some of these states can vote on their computers, fill it out on their computer, and send it back on their computer. And then their ballot gets tested. But you know, the Republicans, they don't want to see that, because they want paper ballots. And paper ballots are only going to exclude more people. So we're hoping that that's part of what we're going to have when we start doing this canvassing. Hillsborough is one of 6 counties that's going to be in this. It's really not an experiment. I guess it's just a pilot, just the first 6 counties that are rolling out voter registration. And they're going to be knocking on doors and hopefully joining with Florida Rising and some of the other groups. The best thing, though, about this is it's being set up by an outside group. So we don't need that third-party identifier on the voter registration form.
Yes, what we heard in the steering committee meeting for the ACDEC earlier this week, last night, is that they're going to increase the penalty for people of the identifiers and the registration forms. They're going to raise it. I think it was $50,000 to $100,000 per violation. So they're trying to make it even harder for us to register people, that if we lose it or turn in late, the personal fine will go from 50 to 100K. So they're doing everything they can to get people to quit registering voters. Surprise.
Because when you turn a voter registration form in, if you're a third party, there's a number that has to be on every single form, and they count them. Well, now they want to make it that if you get these forms and within, I guess it's what, 48 hours or something, 72 hours, if you don't turn them back in, they're going to fine you. And you think after what he did, going after people who he claimed, were felons, and they voted and found 20 people around the entire state of Florida, and most of those cases have all been thrown out already. He will do it again with a not only $50,000 fine, but now it'll be $100,000 fine. And that's ridiculous. Any other questions? Anyone on the phone?
I think it's pretty much a given in American politics that the politicians are responsive mostly to the people who lobby them, and in particular with money. There are some exceptions, some notable ones. The question I would have is, we know what the Republican Party is, and we know they're lobbied much against the people. You mentioned the healthcare facilities as one of the lobbies that's keeping this from happening. Do you know of any others, groups of lobbyists who are preventing this Medicaid expansion? Or is that more complicated than you can imagine?
I mean, a lot of, companies that have insurance. I mean, let's face it, insurance through an employer is nothing more than you having less salary and they're putting the money there instead. But they try to make it look like to their employees that, wow, look what a deal you're getting. You get salary and health insurance. And a lot of people who have that, they think it's adequate until they wind up needing more. And then they're going to find out how quickly that health insurance means nothing. So they're not on the side of expanding Medicaid. Of course, any of the nursing homes, any of those congregated settings, lobbyists, they're not in favor. And just look at, how many people that work for lobbyists in the state of Florida. I mean, we have a candidate running for office right now whose daughter works for a lobbyist in the state of Florida. Probably the largest lobbying firm in the country, and they all bring in some Democrats, or D's at least after their name, and they're not here to do our bidding, and we have to be careful. I think we also have to be more careful how we vet our candidates. That was also something we talked about yesterday. But healthcare in general, it is a for-profit entity, and when you try to take profit out of that formula, they're not going to be happy. I mean, right now they're trying to expand, doing a pilot for managed care for that very group I was telling you about, those that are receiving the home and community-based services, or 35,000. Well, they're going to do it first in Miami, 6,000 people or 600 people. They're going to make it look like the celebration station of managed care. And then what's going to happen when they get a hold of that population? Again, you are a dollar figure to managed care. Managed care companies get the money for you, each and every one of you, up front. Then they decide how they're going to dole it out. That's what Rick Scott did. Oh, you talk about he who cannot be named. He even looks like him. I mean, Rick Scott convinced Secretary Sebelius, who was then the head of Health and Human Services, that I'm going to expand Medicaid. He said it. You can look it up. Did he expand Medicaid? No. And you know who he blamed? The Florida legislature. He had no intention of expanding Medicaid because he wants managed care. Managed care is a for-profit entity. And the more they take, the less we get. Thank you. So, yep. Yep. Biggest fine, yeah, and the largest fine, they were fined over $1 billion and they remained solvent. What does that tell you when you can be fined $1 million and your company, $1 billion and your company still stays in business?
Say that I was one of the employees of Rick Scott. We had to go to ethics classes. I was a nurse for the hospital. Everybody in the hospital, we had to go to ethics classes for years after that because of him. It just constantly amazes me.
Any others? Okay.
I can't show. I think if there's a Medicaid expansion, fine, all the rest of it. I think if you put it all together in one big package, the one thing that we, especially as Democrats, ought to be lobbying for, if I can use the word, and that is to get healthcare out of the hands of profit makers, namely insurance companies. If that would solve a lot of problems. If we had Medicare for all, for example, think of what we could eliminate. We wouldn't have Medicare just for the seniors. You'd have it for everybody. You wouldn't even need a VA. Yeah, right. This is the last question.
I had a insurance salesman tell me decades ago that insurance in this country is the country's largest form of legalized gambling. They are gambling that you're going to pay them more in premiums than they're going to pay out in dividends on you.
So they wouldn't have to be shelling out their billions in profits. And look at how many. I'm not, but I apologize for having to run, but I'm done. I'm due on another meeting.
You want to share your screen?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna share your screen.
Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Karen. We really enjoyed that. We could have gone on a lot longer, but back to the regular format of the meeting. We kind of got it a little bit backwards tonight to accommodate her schedule. We have not done a moment of silence. Walt, I'm going to ask you to stand up because I think we need one. It's been one heck of a week. And if you're not interested in paying attention to what's going on, you must not have electricity in your house. That's all I can say. What a week.
Oh. I don't think we need to.
Well, I'm standing because
you're up front, right? Okay, a moment of silence. Once again, we remember the people of the Ukraine who are still fighting for their freedom in a horrible situation, which we wish would end. But even more pertinent for us all is to remember the victims of gun violence and their families. We've had over 160 mass shootings in since the 1st of January. So 160, and I don't know how many days it is since January 1st, but 160 mass shootings. Let's remember that, and let's try to focus on how do we get legislators who are going to do something about guns in our country. And the Lord help us all. Thank you.
On that very point, being your friendly neighborhood 24/7 news junkie, just breaking in the last half hour as I've been sitting here keeping up with the news, the governor of the Ruby Ridge state of Tennessee has now issued an executive order tightening up background gun checks in the state of Tennessee. And he's also proposed to the Tennessee legislature that they pass red flag laws. This is a Republican governor. So they are beginning to read the tea leaves, and this is good news. I'll take it.
No, I just wanted to say, because one of the victims was one of his dear friends. So.
Yeah, that guy was also apparently a good, or this is Kentucky we're talking about now. In Kentucky, one of the people killed yesterday is good friends with Governor Beshear and also friends with Rick Scott, of all people. So, yeah. Yeah, I know, but that's why I'm just saying what happened in Tennessee. All right. Once again, welcome everybody. This is April, and like I said, I don't know about you, but I am pretty wired with all the things that are going on. I am really hopeful that we're beginning to see a paradigm shift, particularly in the young people. They have just had it. They are just fed up. And I think what these wonderfully observant and wise Tennessee legislatures did by kicking out the Nashville 3 has really bit them in the butt. They have taken these 3 people and made them instant national and international stars. And they got to be, I know all the repubes at the national level. Sorry, I do not call them Republicans. They're repubes. Tough luck, get over it. They have chewed these guys in Tennessee up one side and down the other. They have really, really done the repube party serious damage. Okay. Our board of directors, when everybody's set up, I am the president, and Chris Radulich, stand up, please. You are the vice president. Susan is the assistant treasurer. These aren't in any particular order of importance. Okay. And we have Walt, who's the treasurer. Okay. We have the secretary, which is Janet Mullen. The board of directors director and membership is Vicki Lowry there. Okay. And did I miss anybody? Walt and Emmett is the sergeant at arms and the head barbecue person for the picnic. Okay. And that's why I said our picnic person, our chef. So I think I've hit everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the Zoom audience attending. I appreciate your taking the time to spend with us. Now we're going to have the business meeting, which shouldn't take too long. We have the treasurer's report with Walt.
Our account balance today is $1,956.98. We had some expenses, but we still have money.
Okay, and now Janet is going to give the secretary's report.
No.
You don't give it? You voted on it? Board of Directors meeting last Friday. Okay. Okay. Old business. Now, of course, 2 important things to this club. One is coming up very quickly now, and that's the May 6th picnic. And we encourage anybody who wants to contribute anything to the picnic to be auctioned off to raise money for the club. Please do so. I am contributing. I make furniture for fun, and I'm doing some 18th century mirrors, both for the picnic here and also for the volunteer appreciation event in June. What's the date? June 3rd will be the Volunteer Appreciation Day for the entire HCDEC. And like I said, so I'm donating some 18th century reproduction Chippendale mirrors. And I encourage anybody else who wants to donate, either as a club member here to be auctioned off to the picnic, and also I'll put in a plug for the DEC. Actually, I'll let you do it.
Okay. How much time do I get? Okay. So just like Reed said, there's a volunteer appreciation party happening on June 3rd. Oh, sorry, I'm out of frame. Am I back in frame? No, I got to keep moving away from my stuff though. Just like Reed was saying, there's a volunteer appreciation event, a party, identical to the one we had back in 2021. It's at Alex Sink's house in Thanodisassa. If you have volunteered for any active task, That could be canvassing, that could be phone banking, that could be sign waving, that could be marching in a parade. You will be sent an invitation from a club president, caucus president, volunteer coordinator, or chairperson of a committee with a Mobilize Events sign up that you can click on and register to come to the party. It is going to be catered, free food. We're going to have speakers there as well. I believe Fentress Driscoll is going to be one of those, but there's going to be more. If you haven't done any active volunteer work up until now, I've got great news for you. We have been canvassing 2 precincts within a couple miles of this bowling alley in the past 3 weeks. I am sorry I wasn't at the club meeting. I would have plugged it back then, but we're doing it again on Friday, April the 21st. If you have never knocked on doors before, it is the most valuable way that you can make contact with other members in your community, get them to come out and volunteer with you, make them aware of issues like this healthcare issue that Karen just presented to us on. We always know that the dark money will prevail in television advertising. We don't have a budget for television advertising. We're an all volunteer organization. And we're going into Region 7. That's the area that's just west of this bowling alley. They don't have, from the HCDEC, district leaders or regional directors. Radina is a regional director for Region 5, which is on the east half. And so we'll be recruiting for those to recruit new precinct captains who can rise through the ranks, help get out the vote in this area. This is the further west you go into Region 7, the more you get into East Tampa, which back in the old days of segregation was Black neighborhoods, segregated for people of color, and is largely still neighborhoods where we have a lot of people of color. Those are the neighborhoods we need to go into to organize. Those are the people who vote reliably Democratic when we get them registered to vote. As Reed was touching on, and Karen also mentioned, there's a big voter registration drive that's coming down the pike. The DEC is going to hire its second paid person to specialize in voter registration, the voter registration coordinator. ION is raising money for that now. As soon as they have it, they're going to hire them. But we're building the committee on the fly to get ready for that. And we're registering voters on the fly as we canvass. We're taking those forms with them, and we're turning them in. So this, not this coming Friday, but next Friday, which is April the 21st, we meet here just outside in the outdoor dining area, and we get our materials together and we go knock on doors as groups. We don't do it solo. That's dangerous. And when people meet us, we're talking to newly registered Democrats, whether they just turned 18 to register to vote, whether they switched parties, whether they just got out of prison and got their voting rights restored. I don't know how they can afford to do that. Or yes. We did very well. We went into some apartment complexes that hadn't been canvassed in years. Like I said, this particular region has been neglected. And we got young voters to answer their doors, typically in their 20s, who hadn't been contacted before. And they were very receptive to our message. And we know why that is, right? Especially younger women have been deprived and are being deprived of their reproductive rights. And when we knock on their doors, they don't hem and haw. They say, what can I do? And we're right there to sign them up to volunteer. Maybe not for canvassing, but definitely we're inviting them to your club meetings. And we can sign them up with Mobilize events to make sure that they're reminded to come to these club meetings to become members. A lot of them only have time for something like that, to attend clubs on a regular basis, and they don't have time because they're working 50 or 60 hours a week. We register voters. There are 75,000 unregistered voters. That's one estimate in Hillsborough County. And a lot of those folks are young and they just don't know what's up. We teach them what's up. So please, I'd like to get with you during the club meeting. Radina is coming with us. Reed is coming with us. This will serve your club. Please come canvassing with us. Friday, 5:30. I can sign you up on Mobilize on the spot right now today to make sure you get those reminders. Would love to have you come with us. It is fun. You hear things about it being an adventure, and that is true. Every once in a while, a Trumper might pop up, but I haven't seen that happen since the election. They're losing their mojo as all this bad press is coming out about what having a Republican supermajority really means for Floridians. I came into this bowling alley and bowled after canvassing, and waitresses were coming up to me in my blue Bernie shirt saying, "Hi, Bernie." And I was getting smiles all over the place. I thought I would get lip from rednecks, but they were avoiding me. It was not a problem. So please come with us.
Yeah, and I'm addressing now specifically to Jennifer Moore. Jennifer Moore is also very active, both in Region 5, and she's also in the Southeast Women's Club for Hillsborough County. That is Tracy Korn's group. She's also active in the Democratic Women's Caucus. So obviously, Jennifer, everything you've heard Mr. Miller here say to this club also pertains to the other two clubs you're in. And if you need to have Mr. Miller show up and speak to your clubs, I'm sure he would be more than happy to do so. So talk to Jennifer. I don't know how well you know her yet or not.
Jennifer helped us after the last time I was here at a club meeting 2 months ago. She brought a half a dozen people to our phone banking event in Brandon. She brought them herself. Without Jen, it would have just been me and Tyler's wife. So that was quite a turnout.
You already know each other. I'm not surprised, but I just wanted to make sure. Great. I agree. She got me involved. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to do with the staging. So I'm the voice off, unseen in the side. I apologize. I'm learning this stuff. So we've talked about our picnic. I've only got one speaker lined up so far, which is Marielle Smith. I got to get on that tomorrow and start getting more speakers lined up. And I don't know, is there anything else we have to talk about? Pretty much on about pie. Hang on, we're going to let our chef here say something about the picnic. Yeah, well, yes, Saturday, May the 6th.
And where's that? The picnic starts what, 11 to 3, Paul Sanders Park. This May 8th, May 6th, Paul Sanders Park. Bring a covered dish and bring cash for the 50-50 and the 50 in the auction. Bring cash.
Or bring something to donate. Okay, now we have a special one-time event here. This is my first full meeting, which I'm president. We have Donna Fore here, who is our past president for a long, long time, 7 years. And the board has gotten together at our meeting last week and decided we need to make sure that Donna knows how much her experience and her expertise and her time, many, many hours, means to all of us. So Chris Radulich is going to come up, say a few words, and present a little something to Donna.
Donna has been our president for 7 years, and they were wonderful years. We tried to do a lot of things. We've accomplished some of them, and unfortunately not accomplished a lot of others. But we made our parade every year. We made our picnics every year, and we tried to get out the vote like hell and make the community know we're here. And she was very instrumental in that. And for someone who's remember, our terms are only 2 years. And we've had people go 4 years, but like I said, 7 years is a lot to spend as president of the club. We want to thank you very much, and a little something for you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you again, Donna. All right, the 4th of July parade, as far as I know, it's happening this year. I am right now at a 0% level of knowledge on how to get involved in representing the club along with Chris and the other members of the board. And Donna has promised she will give me the information I need so I can start to contact the main organizer of the parade itself, which is not just our club. It's much bigger than that. And I'll get on that. And hopefully by the next meeting, which is May, we'll be fully up to speed and I can give you a progress report on where we are vis-a-vis our participation in the 4th of July parade this year in Brandon. Is there anything else anybody needs to say about that? Because you all know more than me that are on the board? Nothing, anything? All right, I guess that's good enough for now. All right.
We need to know,
Speak.
we need to know who's gonna do what, like bring ice and tablecloths and forks and knives and napkins and plates and cups.
We do that at the board meeting.
We do it at the board meeting?
Yes, and we have one more board meeting.
A sheet,
Yeah.
for a sign up sheet.
So that's a board issue that we'll handle, and I'll put it on the agenda for the board meeting for next month. Thank you once again. I'm learning how to ride this bike. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask new business. I don't have anything listed here. Does anybody have anything they would like to raise as new business? And that's anybody, including the audience. Yeah, Jan.
Unmute yourself.
Yes, I just wanted to say as a former candidate, thank you so much, particularly to this club and also to the South Shore Democratic Club for all your help. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you very much, Jen. Okay, so if there is no new business that anybody here has, I'm going to ask Vicky Lowry to take the mic for a second and chat about membership and the like. We're trying to make sure our membership lists are totally up to date because we had some entries that are only partial. We're doing our best to fill them in. We have to send the list, and I just got it from her today, and it's complete. I will be sending it to you, number one, Russ. I will be sending it to the Chris Miller, Vice Chair of Outreach. And I also have to send it to Russ Kahn, who is now Vice Chair of, I'm not sure what they call it particularly, but it's basically he's vice chair in charge at the state level of clubs and caucuses in terms of, certification, recertification, membership lists and the like. So that's just normal course of business things that we have to do that we will now be able to, to do that in the next couple of days. Okay. And Vicky, if there's anything you'd like to say about membership and volunteers and who's available to do what, because we don't really have a good handle on that right now, I don't think.
Well, we're up to about 50 members as of today. If you have not paid any membership, if you're not sure, you need to go ahead and contact me. There have been like Emmett had paid, but I didn't have any information on him, so we took care of that tonight. But that's just an example. So if you think you've paid, you need to let me know. I'm not sure because we're taking as it comes. Okay, so.
How do you want them to contact you? Email or by phone?
Well, they have it on I don't know. How do we even do that?
You got it. The email is easy.
Is my email out there or what?
No,
I don't even know for them to. Well, see now that, okay, so.
That's EHDC Club at gmail.com. So let me I didn't put that in the chat box here.
Okay, so when that goes, then how does it come to me? See, that's the other
I'll
issue.
send it to you.
Just like everything else that I get comes 5 times. Or not at all.
We're getting that.
We're getting it all, we're getting it
We're getting
smoothed
lines of
out.
communication
So the other thing of it
simplified and
is,
clarified.
for the picnic, we need some help. I always hate to call on just ladies, but gentlemen, we need your help also to be able to pick up tables, set things up. We're going to be doing the baskets again. So ladies, please be sure to come up with your basket. Also, something we tried new at the last picnic was that you brought a nice item from home and we just set it up as an auction item. So like what Reed's doing with the mirrors isn't part of the basket auction. This is the offset of something totally different. So you just put a price on it instead of putting tickets in the box. Okay, so if you have a nice item and you're trying to clean house, bring them over because we had some really nice items and that brought in quite a bit of money last time. If you're not sure anything else about the picnic, contact Reed.
That works. Okay, yeah, I'm using one of my precincts emails for official business here for the club, just so it doesn't clog my personal email address. And that is readmorgan703@gmail.com. You've got, of course, got my cell number. That is my only phone. It is cell. I do not use a landline. Heaven forbid. That's so 19th century. Now, is there anybody else on any committee that wants to talk or raise anything? Okay, Donna Ford wants the floor.
Well, first of all, yes, I did step down after 7 years, and I want to thank this club because I've got so many friends here, and we've experienced an awful lot, in the 7 years, the picnics, the parades. I love. The card you gave me was very touching, and they gave me $100 in cash. This club means an awful lot to me, and the whole background of this club is raising money and making sure that the voters get out to vote for our candidates. And I don't want this money. I love you all. And I'm not going away. Your friends, and getting out the vote is very, very important. So I want to give this $100 back to the club because yeah, oh yes, take it. No, because it's very important to me that this club, yeah, okay, give it to a candidate or whatever, but no arguments. Yeah, no arguments, people. With the club is not rich. I love you all. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. This is my decision. That's where I want to spend that $100 is in this club. And I love you. I'm not going away. I just I've got to take some things away from my life and Reed, I know you're going to do a wonderful job. Let's have lunch. We'll talk about this silly picnic that we do and all the other things that we do. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all. Love you. Bye.
See you later. Really nice.
7:42. You got 18 minutes.
Okay. All right. I would like to, do we have officially adjourn or is that just for the board? Okay, I'm going to officially adjourn. Okay. Yeah. Is anybody else? After we adjourn, anybody wants to hang on and just talk politics? It's not like we don't have anything to talk about, be it Mr. Trump or what's going on with DeSantis. I mean, there's so much to talk about. If you want to just have a couple social minutes, that's fine with me too. So first, I'm going to ask someone to propose that we officially adjourn the meeting. Donna has proposed adjournment. Do I hear a second? Regina seconds it. Meeting is officially, okay, we vote now. Okay, everybody that votes for adjournment, put up your hand. Aye for adjournment. Nay? Any nays? Okay, why don't you want to adjourn? You're just being difficult? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see. We're not going to necessarily hang up. If they want to hang up, they can. All right, we're officially adjourned. If you need to go, you may go. Thank you. Go with our blessing and good wishes, good thoughts. And if you just want to talk, now's the time. I'll pass the mic around. Anybody in the audience? No? Okay. Anybody? No? All right. All right. Well, I guess we're going to adjourn then for real. And thank you very much for coming and looking forward to seeing you all next month. And actually, our picnic will be before next month's meeting. So hopefully we'll see you all at the picnic at Paul Sanders Park, Saturday, May the 6th from 11 to 3 p.m. And with that, thank you and good night.
Have the card.